The courtroom looks the same every morning. Polished wood, quiet whispers, the judge's bench towering above everyone else. But for Marcus, a black lawyer in his mid-30s, the space always feels heavier than it should. Before he ever opens his mouth, before he even lays out his carefully prepared arguments, he knows he will be judged, not just by the law, not just by the evidence, but by the color of his skin. He wears his suit like armor, polished shoes, neatly pressed tie, every detail speaking for him before he's even had the chance. Because Marcus knows one mistake, one slip of tone, one misplaced word will not simply fall on him. It will be seen as the failure of a black man who dared to stand in a place not built for him. When he was young, his professors said he had brilliance in his arguments, a fire in his reasoning. But no amount of brilliance could erase the sideways glances he received in law school, or the lingering doubt that followed him into internships. "You must be here on diversity," one classmate whispered once, half-smile curling at the edges. Marcus didn't respond. He stored the insult deep inside, like another weight placed on his back. Now, as he stands in court representing clients who depend on him, Marcus carries the knowledge that his every move is being measured twice. First as a lawyer, then as a black lawyer. And every day, he feels the price of that reality, the exhaustion, the scrutiny, the silent fight before the actual fight has even begun. The price of justice, Marcus has learned, is not written in money or prestige. It is paid in hours of work that stretch deep into the night, trying to be twice as prepared, twice as flawless. It is paid in the quiet moments after trial, when the judge's casual remark, "You're surprisingly well-spoken," echoes louder than the victory itself. It is paid in the way he must coach his expressions, never showing too much passion, never raising his voice too high, for fear of being seen not as persuasive but as angry. He remembers one case vividly. A young black man wrongly accused of theft, terrified of losing his future before it had even begun. Marcus knew the case was weak, the evidence paper thin. Yet the prosecution pushed hard, confident that the jury's eyes would see guilt and skin before hearing innocence in fact. Marcus worked night after night, combing through documents, building a defense so airtight it could not be ignored. He walked into court knowing his client's life depended not just on the evidence, but on how convincingly he, as a black lawyer, could dismantle bias in real time. When the verdict finally came, not guilty, the relief washed over his client in tears. Marcus stood tall, but inside he was drained. Victories like this carried joy, but also a reminder. It should not take superhuman effort to prove what should have been clear all along. That night, Marcus sat in his car long after everyone else had gone home. The courthouse lights flickered behind him, the city humming quietly. He thought about how much more it had taken, for him, for his client, just to arrive at the same place others reached without resistance. That is the hidden cost. That is the price of justice. Outside the courtroom, the struggle doesn't end. Marcus knows that even within the law firms, behind polished conference tables and well-lit offices, bias weaves itself into every corner. At networking events, colleagues mistake him for the help or ask which athlete he played for in college. Partners smile warmly, but rarely extend the same mentorship offered freely to others. The ceiling, though invisible, feels low and unyielding. And yet, Marcus refuses to shrink. Every slight, every dismissal, becomes another reason to stand taller. He remembers his mother's words when he first dreamed of becoming a lawyer. "You will have to work harder, but you will carry more pride because of it." Those words follow him like a compass. They keep him steady when his voice trembles with exhaustion. Still, there are days when the loneliness cuts deep. He often wonders what it would feel like to be seen only as a lawyer, not a representative of an entire race. He wonders what it would mean to walk into a courtroom and not have to measure his every gesture. But then he looks at the young associates who shadow him, the ones who look like him, and he knows why he stays. They see in him what he longed to see growing up, proof that someone like them belongs in this space. The cost is heavy, but Marcus carries it, because for every door he forces open, someone else will walk through with a little less resistance. For every case he wins, a life is changed. And that, he tells himself, is worth the fatigue, worth the doubt, worth the price. One of Marcus's hardest trials came not in the courtroom, but in a board meeting. He had been defending a corporate client, his strategy meticulous, his evidence sharp. But halfway through his presentation, a senior partner interrupted. "Tone it down, Marcus. The jury won't like your style. It comes across as aggressive." Marcus froze. Aggressive. The word rang like a bell. He was careful, deliberate, respectful. Yet somehow, passion in his voice became aggression in their ears. He knew what that meant. It wasn't his arguments being judged. It was him. The color of his skin had transformed reason into threat, confidence into arrogance. That night, he replayed the moment over and over. Should he have spoken softer? Smiled more? Or was it inevitable that no matter how he shaped himself, the bias would remain? The mental toll was suffocating. But when the case was 1 week later, Marcus made a quiet decision. He would no longer bend himself into silence just to make others comfortable. He would not surrender the very fire that made him good at what he did. This was not arrogance, it was survival. For too long, black lawyers have been told to shrink, to conform, to erase parts of themselves just to be allowed in the room. But Marcus carried a truth that could not be erased. He belonged. His victories were not luck, not charity, they were earned. And in that realization came power. He could endure the exhaustion, yes. But he could also redefine what it meant to stand in this space, not just surviving it, but reshaping it piece by piece. As Marcus reflects on his journey, he knows the fight is not his alone. Every black lawyer who steps into a courtroom, who signs their name on legal documents, who stand before a judge, is writing a story bigger than themselves. It is the story of resilience, of barriers broken, of dignity demanded in a world that too often denies it. The price of justice remains steep. It is paid in sleepless nights, in whispered doubts, in the constant burden of representation. But it is also paid in victories that ripple outward, families reunited, futures protected, rights defended. Marcus sees his work not just as personal achievement, but as part of a lineage stretching back to those who fought for freedom, for access, for a voice in the halls of justice. When he walks into court now, the weight is still there. But so is pride. Pride in knowing that his very presence is an act of defiance against centuries of exclusion. Pride in knowing that for every young black student who dreams of law, his footsteps make the path a little clearer. Pride in knowing that even in exhaustion, dignity shines brighter than prejudice. In the end, Marcus accepts the truth. The price of justice is heavy, unfairly so. But it is a price he is willing to bear, because justice itself, true justice, is worth more than comfort, more than rest, more than the endless doubt. It is worth everything, and that is what it really takes to be a black lawyer.